first. My name is Kim Stoddart and I run various different courses for the Botanic Gardens and their Growing the Future project, which is fantastic. And my background is as a journalist and editor. I edit the Organic Way magazine for Garden Organic, and I write various different gardening columns for different publications like The Guardian and Grow Your Own magazine. And I've written the Climate Change Garden book, which was published last year. It's worth mentioning as well the whole climate change gardening thing, but these gardens actually flooded about 8 years ago. It was awful. There was so much rain. It's West Wales, although not at the moment. And everything in the ground, because there was so much water, everything in the ground was ruined. So I had to start again from scratch. I researched different techniques for actually building a great degree of resilience from around the world. And what I've done is I've created a first line of defence at the top of the garden up here, where I've got lots of soft fruit bushes and trees, and I let the grass grow long because that helps to soak up water. And then in the on the veg patch, I use raised beds. You can see here if I crouch down. So I use raised beds and gravel, and that enables me to lift the crops and their roots above the ground. So the water as well is able to permeate down through the gravel. So it means that I can use this as an all-weather garden, which is just as well because I teach courses here, or do normally. It's worked extremely well. And I also use no-dig techniques. I use mixed planting as well. So I don't have lots of the same types of crop together. I mix and match plants. I use a lot of perennials. And this garden is very, very resilient. It's very low maintenance and it's hugely productive, which is great. For me, gardening needs to be about fun as well as actually putting food on the table. And what I'm doing with this is just tapping into, it's nothing new about it, it's tapping into an older peasant style type of gardening that people used to do before we all sort of started being so serious and, double digging and so on that we felt we had to do. But it's great. I love it. And the therapeutic benefits of being in a garden like this have really come into their own over the previous few months as well. It's just packed full of nature and wildlife, and it's just such a special place in which to be. I suppose you could say, looking at the rules a lot of the time around gardening, grow your own, there's a lot of very strict rules and regulations which actually tie into more recent Victorian principles of gardening. So if you look back in the distant past to before then, there was more of a free-spirited approach because workers had gardens, they had allotments, they had to grow food for the table because it was essential for them in order to eat. So they didn't have time. They were working. They didn't have time to double dig and to have follow all these exacting instructions. Instead, there was a much more, say, free-spirited way of actually working with nature. So they would use weeds between planting. They would have mixed planting, as I have here, and they used to save their own seed. And it was just a much lower maintenance way of doing things. So that's very much where I'm coming from. Space. So tip number one is to think about employing a mixed planting system. So rather than following very, very exacting crop rotation systems, which I did for years, and it used to make my head whirl that people suggested different things and I had to have all these exacting plans. But what I learned through experimenting is if you just allow sufficient distance between crops of the same type
And if you then use filler plants, which are light on the soil, like lettuce and herbs, you don't have to think about this at all. You won't be depleting the soil of certain types of nutrients, and you won't get pest buildup. And the bonus of that as well is that it's much harder for pests to actually move in and find what they're looking for. It's almost as if you have a big block of carrots, you might as well put a sign up saying carrot fly come this way. But if you imagine lots of plants mixed in together, it's much harder for whatever the dastardly pest is looking for to actually find what it's looking for. And it's really good for wildlife and biodiversity, and it's hugely productive and so incredibly easy to do. I get a lot of people on my courses saying, well, I like planting in straight lines, I really enjoy it. Great, I'd say just crack on, you know, keep planting in the way that you enjoy, but maybe just employ straight lines of different produce. You can start in a little space at first, and you could always move out as you see fit. But
In the past, people used to save their own seed. It was just something that they did as part of the natural gardening cycle. People would save some of their own seed and they would swap and barter it with others. It's only really in recent years that we've all got so used to buying everything in that we get, I mean, there is an excitement about rummaging through a seed catalogue middle of the winter and getting excited about different varieties of seed that you're going to grow. And I've tried saving seed from pretty much everything, so I wouldn't recommend necessarily saving seed from everything, because that would take a lot of time and effort and wouldn't really be particularly fun. But what you can do is save seed from a few varieties very, very easily at home, and then you can swap and barter with other people, which is really civilized. And it also seems rather apt, because if you look back to the peasant gardens of yore, they were full of seed saving. You know, the seed saving is a way of, again, allowing plants to complete their natural cycle, which is great for pollinators. It helps with natural pest control, and it also enables you to create a much more biodiverse space, because you're not whipping plants out the ground and leaving bare patches, which is actually one of the worst things that you can do, especially during the autumn and winter months, because it leaves the ground more open to soil erosion, with the excess of winter rain just washing all the nutrients of your soil away. So there are so many reasons why seed saving really is an important and exciting thing to do, and it makes you feel so incredibly good in the process.